Today on the news and why it matters, Democrats have officially filed the articles of impeachment and given us a little bit more information on these very, very high crimes and misdemeanors that President Trump has committed. Also, FBI Director Chris Wray reacts to the IG report, and Trump has a little bit of a not so nice things to say back to him. We've got a lot coming up. It's a big show, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, today joined by Stuber here, Josh Hammer. I like to just wait for a second and give him the awkward pause.
I'll sit here all day just staring at that camera. Hello, Sarah. Is that awkward?
See, I knew I was just waiting for someone else to feel awkward enough to say something. Josh Hammer, editor-at-large of The Daily Wire, Josh Hammer, and Blaze Media critic Rob Eno. Thanks, guys, for being here. Got a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing. American Financing is it's your go-to if you want to take advantage of the low interest rates right now, and you have, maybe a refi that you're looking to do. Maybe you just want to go buy a new home, like myself, my family. We're like, let's take advantage of this and, hop on this low interest rate and go get a new home. So we're in the process of doing that. American Financing, they are the ones who are salary-based, not commission-based. So they're not going to put you in some crazy scheme that's going to get you nowhere, maybe homeless, and it's going to get them the biggest kickback from the financial institutions. That's not them. American Financing, they are the ones who will not get your legs broken in an alley. I feel like they appreciate that. I feel like that's a good motto. It should stick, I think. They are the ones who will not get your legs broken in an alley, like Stu here, who asked them, hey, will you do this really insanely irresponsible loan that it makes no sense for anyone sane to do? And they were like, no, we're not. That's not smart, and we highly advise that you don't do that.
I don't even like using my legs, and they still wouldn't do it.
Seriously, though, you can go to AmericanFinancing.net. You can trust them to put you in the right situation for you and your family. AmericanFinancing.net, or you can call 800-906-2440. House Democrats, finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, they have introduced 2 articles of impeachment against President Donald J. Trump. Can't wait to get you guys' thoughts. But first, I apologize to the audience in advance. I am going to have to make you suffer through a little bit of Jerry Nadler introducing the articles of impeachment. Watch.
Today, in service to our duty to the Constitution and to our country, the House Committee on the Judiciary is introducing 2 articles of impeachment charging the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, with committing high crimes and misdemeanors. The first article is for abuse of power. It is an impeachable offense for the President to exercise the powers of his public office to obtain an improper personal benefit while ignoring or injuring the national interest. Second article of impeachment for obstruction of Congress. Here, too, we see a familiar pattern in President Trump's misconduct. A president who declares himself above accountability, above the American people, and above Congress's power of impeachment, which is meant to protect against threats to our democratic institutions, is a president who sees himself as above the law.
Now, the definition of what is an impeachable offense, right, in our documents are, correct me if I'm wrong, bribery, treason. Well, there's one more.
High crimes.
Well, I thought there was another one with the actual specific one. So bribery, treason, or other high crimes and misdemeanors.
Right.
I wasn't aware that abuse of power or obstruction of Congress was a crime.
I mean, maladministration, which is what this abuse of power is getting to, was actually specifically debated in the Constitutional Convention. It's something that they had in the United Kingdom, where our impeachment laws come from, and they said, no, we shouldn't do this because of this. And then the other stupid one, right, is the obstruction of Congress. So the President of the United States, the executive, part of one co-equal branch of government, is supposed to be impeached for not getting along and not doing what one half of another co-equal branch of government told him to do? Like, that's what we're impeaching on?
Yes.
It's the most...
The answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. I just wanted to make sure that that's... I don't know what timeline I'm living on. I don't know where I am, but it's not like a sane one.
Still.
I mean, this is embarrassing, flatly embarrassing, is it not?
Yeah,
and they were talking about having 7 articles of impeachment.
Well, what happened to bribery?
Right, like bribery. They tested the bribery thing. That didn't play, apparently. They went through this entire Mueller investigation and pulled nothing out of that. Remember, they were telling us they were going to impeach just over that. They get over the hump. They're in the impeachment hearings. They don't pull anything out of the Mueller report at all. I mean, the second one to me is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, this has been decided by the courts over and over and over and over again, and where, you know, the aides that are close to the president, that work with him regularly, have absolute immunity from being forced to come testify in front of Congress. Now, there are some exceptions to that, but you have to go through court to get through them if they don't show up.
Right.
This has been granted not only by court after court after court, but has been reinforced by both the Obama administration, the Clinton administration, and I believe 7 other administrations. This is like... The Congress one is so completely ridiculous that I can't even imagine they think it's legitimate. I feel like they couldn't go to the table with, well, we only have one. So they decided to go with this. And, you know, abuse of power, I mean, you can argue it, I guess, but I mean, I just don't think it rises to the level.
Though?
I mean,
it's
abuse of power, it's...
crime.
No, but I mean, Josh, you could speak to this probably better than I can. It's not really like legitimate on the books crimes, right?
Right. So the phrase high crimes misdemeanors, which they deliberately chose after, as Rob points out, they rejected maladministration. They chose this English common law term of art, high crimes and misdemeanors. Alexander Hamilton tells us in Federalist 65 quite clearly that it refers to an abuse or violation of the public trust. So that is the argument that this phone call amounted to that. But it quite clearly does not. And I have a few takeaways. The first takeaway for me is what Stu said. The bribery, the Mueller report, like what happened to that? I mean, like they were just like poll testing it, kind of like licking their finger, holding it up, see which way the wind would blow, and then just like got rid of it. So comical how that was nowhere to be found. On the abuse of power point, here's the deal. To cite the Federalist Papers once again, James Madison tells us in Federalist 51 that the separation of powers was there to ensure that ambition could counteract ambition. The political branches are not supposed to get along with one another. They're actually supposed to like duke it out in like MMA or boxing style. They really are. The framework,
They are way too old for that.
well, apparently not Joe Biden. He's not too old. I mean, he wants to get into some fisticuffs with this old fat guy in Iowa, apparently. But no, in general, like that is the way it's supposed to work. And each branch has tools. They have checks and balances and various tools to accomplish that. Impeachment, to be clear, is a tool, but it is the most powerful and extreme tool. And it's an inherently anti-democratic, anti-majoritarian tool that really should be reserved for the worst of the worst. So they have many other tools at their disposal. They could defund presidential prerogatives. And then as far on the second article of impeachment, on this congressional point, this is the 4th time that articles of impeachment, I believe, have been drafted. We had President Johnson, President Nixon, President Clinton. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, Stu or someone else, I think this is the first time that there has been widespread subpoenaing of executive branch officials. So there's really no precedent for this. And then in the past, to the extent that that's happened, we've waited for a judicial order to back up this subpoena, which has not happened this time. So this is nonsense. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. It's pulling underwater in swing states. It's going to redound to Republicans' benefit, I think.
Well, that's why, you brought up, they have the ability, Congress, the House could have gone to a judge and said, okay, we want you to make these people testify. And they would have had to do that. I mean, I guess they could have appealed, but if they lost their appeal, they would have had to do that. What's that, an extra month?
Yeah, I mean, this is essentially Turley's argument when he was there last week testifying. Like, look, if you want this to be a serious impeachment process, then make it a serious impeachment process. Like, yes, it is something in the Constitution that we all, as conservatives, completely respect the process. But not the way they're doing it. And I think that kind of backs it out to, like, what are they attempting here? What are they trying to do? It's so hard to understand.
It really is.
And, I've bounced this around a bunch of times. I mean, like, obviously you think when you're going for impeachment, you're going for the removal of the president because you think it's this serious offense. I don't think it's possible to argue that's what the Democrats are trying to do here. The only thing I can come up with their actual strategy is to be able to say to the AOCs, to the activist crowd, we got your impeachment done. Yeah, they buried it around Christmas and no one was really paying attention, but at least we got that done. We checked that box. We can use it in ads. Of course, it's not going to get overturned in the Senate, but it's not really a serious effort. It's essentially a marketing tool to brand the president as bad guy. And they will accomplish that, I suppose. But
to
the
AOCs.
Yeah, to the AOCs.
Okay.
To the, my leftist friends on Twitter that I use as my barometer are all, oh yeah, this is the greatest thing. I have friends in real life that I like, and we argue on Twitter, in Facebook. I know we're odd, but we still go out and have beers. I know, it's weird.
Sarah's disgusting.
But yeah, I can't believe that. But anyways,
I'm kidding.
But those folks think that this is like big, that obstruction of Congress is something that you should be able to do. But then there's people on the left. We're seeing left-wing activist groups, the progressive activist groups, Soros Inc. type groups. Although I mentioned his name, probably not supposed to do that. But those type of groups that are like, well, no. You were supposed to impeach him on like bribery and all these other high crimes and misdemeanors that he really did. To Stu's point, this is all about checking a box, getting something over to the Senate. And what they've done now is they've opened themselves up, right? Because we have all these people saying, oh, there's nothing with the Ukraine, and that's all, bunk. Mm-hmm. Ted Cruz said today, oh, no. We're going to look at all of this in the trial because it centers around what happened in the Ukraine during the Obama administration. And the Republicans and the media is going to say, no, there's nothing there. But they're going to bring out the evidence that Glenn's been bringing out, that we've been bringing out at BlazeTV, that Rudy Giuliani's been bringing out. They're going to bring that evidence out. And I don't think the Democrats are ready because they've been conditioned to think it's not real.
So you think that the Democrats actually in Congress don't believe that this is real, or you just say the average American Democrat doesn't think that anything going in Ukraine?
I think that the Democrats in Congress have told themselves that this isn't real, that they believe their own propaganda because they watch, the TV and they get, the dirty secret is politicians don't know what other people don't tell them. They're not the smartest people in the world. They kind of do what other people tell them to do.
See, but I wonder if it's more of they are the elitists who have been able to stay, above the law for so long that they just think that they're just above the law and they won't ever get caught for anything that they do.
I think the Schiffs of the world and those people, but I think your rank and file member is like somebody that used to join the Rotary Club and was nice and thought it'd be nice to be a congressman and lets all the groups tell him what legislation to file and then goes back home and goes to chicken dinners.
That's adorably optimistic.
I thought it was adorably pessimistic because I'm like Bane and don't think anybody, but yeah, okay.
All right. Speaking of all of this, how deep it goes and how we've got all of these officials talking about, Ukraine was just a conspiracy theory. Don't worry about it. Up next, we've got FBI Director Chris Wray, I should say, current FBI Director Chris Wray, who reacts to the IG report and to Ukraine when we come back. FBI Director Christopher Wray, he gave an exclusive interview to ABC News in response to the IG report that just came out, which, Josh, I'd love to get your thoughts on since you were not here yesterday when we discussed it. Would love to get your thoughts on it. But so Christopher Wray, he kind of gave mixed feelings about it. He said that the actions described in this report were considered unacceptable and unrepresentative of who we are, the FBI, as an institution. But he said it was important that the Inspector General found that in this particular instance, the investigation was opened with appropriate predication and authorization. Now, he did say every error and omission is something we need to take very seriously, which I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will take all of these errors, these oopsies, and omissions very, very seriously. He also had this to say about interference in the United States elections.
Well, look, there's all kinds of people saying all kinds of things out there. I think it's important for the American people to be thoughtful consumers of information, to think about the sources of it, and to think about the support and predication for what they hear.
And we recently heard from the president himself that he wanted the CrowdStrike portion of this whole conspiracy in the Ukraine investigated. And I'm hearing you say there's no evidence to support that, as far as you know.
As I said, we at the FBI have no information that would indicate that Ukraine tried to interfere in the 2016 presidential election.
So I guess my question, Stu, to you is, how does the FBI not have access to the documents that someone like, Glenn Beck would have access to?
Well, first of all, you'd have to subscribe to BlazeTV. Christopher would get you a discounted membership.
I think we could get him a free one.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. I don't know
Are
about
we
that.
legally able to do that, though? I don't know.
Let's go
if it's
crazy.
like,
Let's go crazy.
Well, look,
Emoluments.
this drives me nuts because and Ted Cruz tried to make this point
They're
on
conflating the CrowdStrike thing,
Chuck
right?
Todd. First of all, the CrowdStrike thing is a conspiracy theory.
Right.
And it is Donald Trump largely his fault for keeping it in the conversation, because he keeps saying it when everyone else is like, yeah, but that didn't amount to anything, which is really frustrating, I think, because there is stuff in Ukraine that is serious. Like, for example, the Black Ledger being, think about it. If you go through an election cycle where maybe the biggest story of the entire election cycle would be the head of one of the campaigns of the two candidates being not only dismissed into controversy, but then being thrown in prison. That's like the biggest story of any cycle. For us, it's like, well, we barely even remember it. But this was something that was that two people in Ukraine were convicted for leaking and trying to affect the elections. It's not to say that Ukraine was involved at some level is not to say that Russia wasn't. Mm-hmm. Russia did do all these things. We have incredible amounts of detail, down to the individual Bitcoin addresses they were transferring money around, down to individual IP addresses where this was coming from. Russia had a larger, more systematic approach to this than Ukraine did. However, Ukraine also did some crap. There were people from the DNC who were involved in it. It is obviously the Biden part of it is not related to the election, but related to other corruption. This is not something to just dismiss. And every time an authority figure like that says, well, we have nothing, it's just another excuse to try to dismiss all of this with the same broad stroke. It's not fair and it's not accurate, and that's the bigger issue.
Yeah, Josh and Rob, I want to get your thoughts, but I want to throw in the tweet from President Trump. He responded to FBI Director Chris Wray's comments. He said, I don't know what report current director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, was reading, but it sure wasn't the one given to me. With that kind of attitude, he will never be able to fix the FBI, which is badly broken, despite having some of the greatest men and women working there. I feel like there's a reason he said current.
Yeah.
Not so subtle.
It's just laying that out there.
It was Jerry Jones who said that Jason Garrett will be coaching in the NFL next year. Didn't say what team he'd be with. I wouldn't say it's a vote of confidence.
Just saying. But can you blame him? Because I get the CrowdStrike thing, but Chris Wray could have been a lot better with his word choice. He specifically said, we don't have any evidence that Ukraine interfered in our election.
Yeah, this is the exact same back and forth that Ted Cruz and Chuck Todd had on Meet the Press this past Sunday. We're just talking past each other, okay? Mm-hmm. Two things can be true at once. On the one hand, Ukraine did not engage in a Vladimir Putin-esque top-down Kremlin governmental effort to meddle in our election and sow mass discord. At the same time, there were convictions, and we know that there were many people in Ukraine who actually were, in their individual capacity or in some other capacity, perhaps that didn't go all the way to the top, were trying to meddle. So that's all true. The president is completely correct here, I think, to call him out for this. That tweet obviously is just classic Trump, right? It's just Trump totally being Trump.
Have fun while you last, current FBI director.
But it seems to me that two things can very clearly be true at once here, and that's just what's going on.
Yeah. Rob?
And to further it, he's in some hot water, right? The media is trying to paint the FBI was completely exonerated, even though there were the 51 or over, really bad things that happened. What's not getting a lot of press, and I give NBC credit for it, is NBC reported today that the Inspector General said, so this whole FISA thing is really, really nuts, and we're going to see if, everybody else that's ever had a FISA warrant put on them had their rights violated, too. Like he's opening up a big, or a part of it. Chris Wray's not just in hot water for this. He's been at the FBI for a long time. The FBI is corrupt. The FBI has been corrupt for its entire existence. We have J. Edgar Hoover that was keeping files on political enemies. Mm-hmm. It has always been. That was when Christopher Wray said yesterday something about, the brand of the FBI, this doesn't, what they're saying doesn't match the brand of the FBI. I'm like, you mean like J. Grover? I mean, this has been the brand since the beginning. The FBI works with mobsters. And Durham is the guy that puts away FBI agents that work with mobsters, that do these things that are outside the norm. And, he may not have information on it, but I'm pretty sure John Durham does.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what Durham comes up with.
How rich is it also in that video? Chris Wray is talking about being wary of your information, the sources. This is literally the same bureau that took the Fusion GPS Steele dossier and used it to spy on Carter Page, okay? So talk about be wary of the sources you're using and the information.
Steele, who was a closed contact?
Yeah,
because
they actually got rid of him because they did not find him reliable and still took his information after that, which is included in the report. And it's one of those things, too, where I think the thing they're arguing for is actually worse than the alternative. I mean, they're saying, well, it was not political bias. Well, if you kind of wish it was, right?
It was gross incompetence.
Yeah, right.
Which is worse. Because, if it's political bias, okay, people are bending rules because they really think this guy is a bad president or whatever else. That's a terrible, terrible outcome. A worse outcome is they just let this crap fly all the time. And if they're doing this if they did this to Trump, to a presidential candidate, imagine what they're doing to Joe Schmo who has no power at all. I mean, it makes you doubt, the FISA process has obviously had a lot of critics and sometimes some defenders, and there's some things you can understand why it's there and what it's trying to do. But if this is the way they're handling it, it's terrifying. Right. It's everything that every one of your libertarian friends has warned about for all these years. I mean, it is this process, if this is routine, is a disaster, and they have to figure out a way to fix it.
House Democrats, so I just want your snap judgment really quickly. House Democrats finally have reached an agreement with the Trump administration on moving forward with the USMCA Trade Agreement, so U.S., Mexico, and Canada trade agreement. I find it odd, though, the announcement came, 90 minutes after they announced articles of impeachment, and now they're like, oh, by the way, we'd finally moving forward with this deal that we've been sitting on for a whole year and not doing anything with, and saying President Trump is so bad on trade and all of these things, and now all of a sudden we've come to an agreement. Stu, your quick thoughts.
I mean, look, the USMCA is basically just a modernized NAFTA. It's basically the same thing. The Democrats got a few extra things out of this to come to the table for a deal because they didn't need to. So, I don't think it's going to change things up. Both sides will claim victory, and that's about it.
Yeah. Josh, you agree?
Yeah, huge political victory for the president, honestly, on this one. Arguably his biggest victory since the tax cuts.
But they buried it.
They buried the lead.
I think that's what they just buried it because everyone's talking about impeachment and no one's talking about the win for the president. Rob.
Yeah, check the box. Check the box. We got to get this trade thing done. Yeah. There'd be a bunch of checking the boxes till the end of the year.
Yeah. All right. Back in a minute.
Wow.
Coming up in overtime. So, that story that we just told you about FBI Director Chris Wray and how he said, well, we just need to make sure that we know where our sources are getting their information from and where these stories are predicated. Well, I have a little clip for you guys from CNN that it may make your head explode.
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure. That is kind of my ultimate goal, is how many heads can I make explode. If you guys have high blood pressure, take your blood pressure medication. You are not going to want to miss. The lack of self-awareness is just incredible. Also, Tulsi Gabbard will not attend the December debate, even if she qualifies. We'll get into that. And Pete Buttigieg advocates for over-the-counter abortion drugs. Fewer restrictions, even though the FDA is warning of health risks. But the Democrats are there for us. They're going to watch out for us when we can't watch out for ourselves. Got a lot coming up in overtime, and it starts right now, BlazeTV.com.
Pete kept brutalizing that Quinnipiac bulge.